They say you never forget the sound of shackles on your own wrists, especially when they're put there by the very country you swore to protect. And that morning, as I walked into the federal courthouse with cameras flashing and protesters screaming on both sides, I understood for the first time what betrayal really felt like. I wasn't just a decorated officer anymore. I was the story, the scandal, the scapegoat. They arrested me 3 hours before I was supposed to receive the Medal of Valor. Said I leaked classified intelligence during a mission overseas. Said I was a traitor. But the truth? The truth is, I did what I had to do when command refused to act. And I kept my mouth shut for 2 years until they dragged me into that courtroom and thought I'd just sit there quietly. My name is Lieutenant Commander Talia Monroe, first Black woman Navy SEAL sniper in active service. I've been in combat zones you've never heard of, completed missions that aren't in any files you could FOIA, and I've seen things that made grown men weep in silence. But none of that compared to what I witnessed during Operation Winterglass. 2 years ago, in a dusty valley near the Afghan border, my SEAL team was tasked with what they called remote surveillance. But that wasn't the real mission. Not for me. See, Admiral Claiborne had his suspicions about a rogue American unit, operating without oversight, a team that had gone dark but kept drawing black budget money. He sent me to find out what was really happening, quietly. We found it all right. A compound masked as a medical clinic. Inside, 37 civilians, men, women, kids. Some in cages. Some strapped to tables. Some already dead. They were using them for testing. Bioweapons, viruses, chemical reactions. All off the books. No one was coming for them. Command told us to stand down, collect intel, wait for approval. But those people didn't have time. So I gave the order. We breached. We rescued every single person we could. We got them on helos, administered emergency care, burned the data drives to keep it from getting into the wrong hands. And when the dust settled, I reported everything. Filed it all through official channels. You know what happened next? Silence. Then, reassignment. Then, threats. One by one, some of the survivors started disappearing. And so did my team. I stayed quiet because I thought maybe, just maybe, someone up the chain would do the right thing. But instead, they waited. Waited until the day I was supposed to get pinned. That's when the federal agents showed up and slapped cuffs on me in front of my parents. So there I was, standing in a courtroom, wrists chained, with half of DC calling me a hero and the other half calling me a traitor. And I stayed silent. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew the moment I spoke, they'd spin it, twist it, bury it. Until he walked in. Admiral Claiborne kicked those courtroom doors open like it was a battlefield. His chest full of ribbons, his jaw set like granite. And behind him, a wall of agents from different branches in SA, DOJ, even a few spooks I recognized. He looked at the judge and said, "This hearing is paused." Now, turns out he'd been doing his own digging, and what he found made my case the least of their problems. Ghost operation files. Human trials. Funding links to a private defense contractor named Valence Group, the kind of people who make enemies disappear and don't leave paperwork. Within 24 hours, everything changed. Camille Duarte, a DOJ investigator with more guts than most colonels I served under, leaked the first footage. Bodycam video of me pulling a little girl out of a burning cage. Images of kids with IVs in both arms, wide-eyed, barely breathing. The public lost its mind. Congress scrambled. And the same judge who once stared me down with suspicion now wiped away tears as she read the documents aloud in court. But you know how these things go. Just when you think the truth has the upper hand, someone moves the goalposts. The morning after my charges were dropped, they came for me again. This time it wasn't local law enforcement, it was federal contractors, posing as marshals. They dragged me into an unmarked van, drove me to an underground facility somewhere in Maryland. No sunlight, no windows, no rights. That's where I learned about Directive 74G, an internal national security loophole that allows indefinite detainment without trial if the subject is deemed an active counterintelligence threat. They labeled me as such, said I had too much knowledge to be released. But the thing about snipers? We know how to wait, to breathe slow, to measure every move. I waited, and I wasn't alone. Camille found me. She and Admiral Claiborne didn't just fight, through red tape they shredded it. Exposed the underground program on national television, complete with testimony from survivors. A week later, The president issued an executive order to disband the facility and remove those responsible. The day they opened my cell, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood up, walked out, and saluted. Because I knew the real war wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Now I travel the country, talking to recruits, teaching them what ethics look like when orders contradict humanity. I don't wear my medals anymore, not after what they tried to do. But I keep one thing on me, the drawing that little girl gave me. The one with stick figures escaping fire and the words, "You saved me, soldier lady." They tried to erase me. But what they don't understand is this. Truth can't be silenced forever. It's patient, just like a sniper in the hills. And when the time comes, it never misses. So let me ask you something. When everything you trusted turns against you, would you follow the order or follow your conscience? Let me know in the comments. Because next time, it might not be my story we're telling. It might be yours. Like, share, and subscribe if you believe some truths are worth standing up for even when it costs everything. There wasn't much left to say when they shackled me again, this time not in a courtroom, but in some underground holding cell where sunlight didn't exist and people like me were never meant to be seen again. I wasn't supposed to make it out of there. And maybe if it were just me, I wouldn't have tried. But there were 17 survivors still breathing because I disobeyed orders, because I listened to my gut, because I broke ranks to do what was right. They didn't expect Agent Camille Harris. They didn't expect Admiral Vaughn would risk everything to walk into the lion's den and drag the truth into daylight. They sure didn't expect Eli Chun, the soft-spoken codebreaker with shaky hands and a memory for firewalls like no one else. But they underestimated people who'd seen too much and weren't scared anymore. The day I stood before the United Nations, I wasn't in uniform for them. I wore it for the ones who didn't get a second chance. I carried names in my mind: Fared Nasser's daughter, who'd learned to smile again. The little boy who used to scream at the sound of helicopters, but now wanted to be a pilot. And all the others, who didn't live long enough to testify. I told them what I saw. What we all saw. Not theories. Not accusations. Names. Dates. Bodies. Data. Footage. You could have heard a pin drop in that chamber when I described the girl with the butterfly necklace, strapped to a cot, begging in Pashto for her mother. I still don't know her name. I never will. Some folks call me a traitor. Say I exposed things that should have stayed classified. But let me ask you, when did protecting human life become treason? When did silence become patriotism? They tried to bury this. With press releases. With gag orders. With medals. With fear. But they forgot if you bury the truth deep enough, it doesn't die. It grows roots. And one day, it cracks through the pavement. Senator Langford resigned. Director Kessler vanished. Black River's CEO got perp-walked in front of cameras he used to control. The Briggs Protocol was signed by 82 nations. And yeah, my name's on it. Not because I wanted it to rebut, because people needed a symbol. I still walk the cemetery sometimes. Place stones on graves of people whose sacrifice never made the news. Talk to the silence. Sometimes Camille joins me. Sometimes Vaughn, when he's strong enough. We don't say much anymore. We don't have to. They offer me a book deal. A documentary. Even floated a Senate run. I turned them all down. I don't want a platform. I want a classroom. I want the next generation of SEALs to know that duty without conscience is just obedience. And obedience, unchecked, becomes abuse. Last month, I got a letter from Canada. A crayon drawing. A little girl with braids standing next to a woman in navy dress blues. The caption just said, "Thank you for being brave when nobody else was." That's all I needed. And you watching this, you might think it's just a story. Some government drama that doesn't touch your world. But ask yourself this: if the country you love asked you to stay silent while innocent people suffered, would you? Because sometimes justice doesn't wear a robe. Sometimes it wears shackles. And sometimes it walks free because enough of us refuse to sit down when standing up cost everything. So tell me, was I wrong? Would you have followed orders? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And if you believe stories like this matter, share it. Because silence helps the powerful. But truth? Truth belongs to all of us.